Hey guys, Sharpen here. In this video I'm going to show you how to make big Pluck soundscapes using Virtual Riot's tonal noise oscillator method in Serum. It sounds something like this. So this sound is based on a sound that Virtual Riot showcased in a video he did with Splice, where he shows how to create Pluck soundscape using just Serum's noise oscillator. It sounds like this. But in the video, he described it very briefly, like in under a minute, so I'm here to give you a more thorough walkthrough of how to create that sound. So the first thing you want to do is to open up Serum, and you want to enable only the noise oscillator. I'm going to choose the glass lead noise, for example. It sounds like this. Then the next thing you want to do is to enable the filter, and you want to enable it on noise. And then you want to go to normal and pick 24. And what you want to do is to set the resonance to be all the way up and to enable keyboard tracking. So as you change the notes on your keyboard, the filter is going to move around so that it accentuates one note each time you play a note. And as you move between the notes, it's going to accentuate different notes. Here's an example. Now, currently it's way too high, so what we're going to do is to change the cutoff to be a bit lower. And also you can hear how the clicks are repeating themselves pretty fast. So you can lower the speed of the clicks by lowering the noise pitch. Like that. Now we're going to find a slightly lower cutoff. And see if it sounds good with the MIDI that I already prepared here. Sounds a bit too low, so I'm going to increase the cutoff. Something like that. So now we're going to remove all of the level on our noise oscillator, and we're going to use LFO1 to control the level. So we can start adding some randomizers so we can create this soundscape that we have here. So the first thing you want to do is to remove the BPM setting, and then what you want to do is to go to the matrix and set it that chaos oscillator number 1 is going to control the rate of LFO1. So chaos oscillator is right here. Basically, it has different rates and it's just moving in random speeds and directions in random amounts. So that means that it's going to change the rate by random amounts each time we keep playing. Here's an example. You see how it moves in different rates, and that changes the speed of LFO1 in different ways. So altogether we have this sound so far. As you can hear, we already have some randomness just by changing how fast LFO1 plays our noise oscillator using the chaos, which adds some a random element to our sound. The next thing you want to do is to do the same thing using the noise phase. So we're going to go to right-click mod source, and we're going to add chaos oscillator number 2 to our phase. And we're just going to tell it to increase it by a bit. And basically what this does is it tells the noise oscillator if to start from the start of the sample or to start from a different position in the noise sample. So this will create some sort of reverse sounding plucks. You can hear these, and these add another random element, and then you can change the speed as you like. So faster speeds will result in a lot of high end, and lower speeds will result in just some reverse clickiness every once in a while. Like that. So now that we have our basic randomizer effects, we're going to be adding some more effects. So the first thing we're going to do is to go to the matrix, and we're going to set macro 1 right here. So that means that while macro 1 is off, we're not going to be using chaos oscillator number 2 to modulate the noise phase. And when it's on, we are going to do that. So that's just as a way to control the sound. So you can decide whether you want this sort of reversed sound or you just want the straightforward attack time and Pluck sound. So right now I'm going to just set it to be on. And now let's add some effects. So effects wise, I'm going to add hyper dimension. I'm going to add phaser, a chorus, some delay, some reverb, and some EQ. So now let's start working with all these effects. We're going to use another macro and we're going to use it to introduce some chorus, some phaser. We're going to use it to introduce the hyper, which is a unison effect. And that's it for now. So let's start working with our effects. The first thing you want to do is to make sure that the depth of the phaser isn't too high. You don't want a sound that's too phasey and you don't want it to be way too wet. You just want a tiny bit of phasing. And then for the chorus, you want to set the low pass filter to be open all the way. You want to set the delays to be pretty far apart from each other. And you want to slightly increase the rate and see how it sounds like. Basically, this will give you a sound that resembles a marimba. You can hear how the phasing sort of gives it a different texture, which is also nice. So you can choose whether you like that or not. It's up to you. And then for the delay, what I like to do is to create sort of a bandpass filter here so that it doesn't let all the frequencies go through. Here's how it would sound like. So it's not as full as the original, so that doesn't clash too much with the original signal that we're outputting. I'm going to set the wet at around 30% wet. And then for the reverb, you want a pretty big sound. You want the decay to be pretty big as well. And then you just want to high pass it and see how it sounds like. The more reverb you're going to add, the more ambient and soundscape like it's going to sound. So to match Virtual Riot's soundscape sound in the video, I suggest using very high reverb amounts, but it's up to you. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is to just low pass, just to high pass it, because we get some unnecessary mud in the very low frequencies, like 100 hertz and below. So really don't need them. So we can just remove them like that. And if you want to accentuate the high end, you can also add some compression before the delay and the reverb effects, and just click on multi-band. And then you get a sound that's very bright and has a lot of high end as well, which you can then control using the EQ right here. And that way you can get a very nice soundscape sound out of just a noise oscillator. In addition to that, an important thing to notice is that you want to be playing multiple notes, but you want to play them at different times, so not all at once, so that you can create very interesting rhythmic patterns with it. So here's another example where it's playing only single notes, and you can hear how it sounds way worse when you're just playing short notes on their own compared to long notes altogether. And that's because the notes are randomizing their attack time, so not every time you're going to click on a note you're going to hear an attack time. But if we were to play all of these as a big chord, we will get a way more interesting sound. Like this one. So one more thing to note about this sound is that because we're using the cutoff to determine the pitch of our sound, it's not necessarily going to start on C when you're playing a C note. So in order to determine its pitch, we're going to use a sine wave, like this one, and just play with the notes until we find a note that fits the note that is being played with Serum. So this is the Serum note. And as you can hear, G sharp is the same note as C in Serum. So let's hear them together. And if it was, and you can tell that it's G sharp because if you were to play a different note, you would just hear a lot of mud, sort of, because the notes are clashing because they're way too close to each other, but not the same. like here. So basically what you're hearing is some dissonance. So once you find the note doesn't clash with your Serum patch, you know that that's the note that the Serum patch is tuned to. So basically what you want to do is to just make sure that your MIDI is accustomed to the fact that C is actually G sharp and not actually C. And that is pretty much it. If you found this tutorial helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments below what subject you want me to cover up next time.